I messed up by wearing an inappropriate shirt to family dinner. I found this really awesome shirt while thrift shopping that said, "Take me home and feed me." It's a black shirt. Most of the letters are white, but some are a darker gray. What do I know about design? It's talking about food. I thought, oh, that's so perfect for Thanksgiving dinner coming up. So I buy the shirt for this purpose. Fast forward a few days, and I'm celebrating Thanksgiving with all of the extended family. It's evening. We've all had dinner, and the pies are starting to come out. My older brother pulls me into the kitchen for a quick word. "Hey man, what's with the shirt?" Interesting choice for family dinner. I ask him what he's talking about. I thought it was a fun Thanksgiving shirt. It clearly references food. Realizing I don't know what's going on, he starts to laugh. He pulls in one of the older cousins, similar in age to him. They both start laughing. Turns out the dark gray letters were the Eid on feed. The shirt is designed so that from a distance, you guessed it, it just says, "Take me home and F me." I wore that shirt for family photos. I am standing next to my sweet grandma with a shirt that says, "Take me home and F me." These photos will live forever on her Facebook.
My ex cheated on me because she thought I was going to break up with her. So for a little backstory, I 33M had been dating Sarah 32F for 6 years and loved every second of it. We were literally soulmates, and so obviously I was going to ask her to marry me. I decided that I would take her to a really expensive restaurant, and when we got back I would have a beautiful display with loads of flowers and a sign asking her to marry me. So when the day came I was all dressed up in a 400-pound suit, and when I told Sarah we needed to go she came downstairs in a t-shirt, jumper and jeans. This upset me quite a bit. Once we were in the car and halfway to the restaurant, Sarah told me she felt ill, asked if I would pull over at the pharmacy and get her some paracetamol. Thinking nothing of it, I obliged. However, when I came out of the store my car was missing and there was an envelope addressed to me where the car was parked. Inside the envelope were pictures of her naked with another man and a note that said she knew I was going to break up with her, so she decided to cheat on me and leave me before I could do it to her. Obviously, when she arrived home and saw the display I had set up in our room, she realized she had made a massive mistake. About 10 minutes after being abandoned I got a call from her. She started the call by claiming it was a big joke, but when I mentioned the pictures she became really apologetic and then followed up by telling me she can't wait to get married. I hung up and called my friend and asked if I could stay the night, which is where I'm writing this from. I've got no clue what I should do. Should I take her back? Should I take her back?
Am I the asshole for snooping into husband's phone and finding provocative pictures of my best friend under hidden photos? I'm pregnant. I had a weird suspicion and I acted on it. Went through my husband's phone and found provocative pictures of my best friend on there that were recently added. They are not sleeping with each other. He pulled them off Instagram.
If the girls have to wear the new uniform, then the boys will too. Many years ago, I worked in a small coffee shop on a university campus. Work was great. We had fun and loved the owners. Unfortunately, after 2 years of working there, they retired. New owner came in, put up multiple cameras, and used to proposition the girls, we were all university students, so 17, 21 years old, that they would get extra shifts if they went home with him. If you argued back then, you got your work hours cut down the bare minimum. A couple of months in, he decides that he's going to change the uniform. Our uniform was just a loose black polo shirt with the cafe logo, black pants, and closed shoes. Standard coffee shop staff attire. He decides that the uniform will change, but only for the girls. Now the girls will wear a midriff top with the cafe logo and low-rise pants. The boys still get to wear the old uniform. We argued that it was unsafe. Hot coffee and plates of food next to bare skin, and got told too bad. So sad. Staff got together and hashed out a plan. The first day of the new uniform, the girls showed up in the old uniform. The boys showed up in the midriff tops and the low-rise pants. The new uniform policy lasted an hour. Boss was not impressed. No one lost their job because our coffee shop was right next to the law faculty. One of the students had already had a conversation with her lecturer about what was going on. I'm pretty sure that if we'd been fired for non-compliance with uniform, the boss would have found himself in far more trouble. I got revenge on my bully. In school, I was relentlessly bullied. 2 girls in particular had it out for me. I was shy, loved to read, didn't do the popular stuff, so I was the perfect victim. They'd literally torture me by holding me down in the staircase when we were alone and sticking pinboard pins into my arms, legs, and feet. Well, I finally got my revenge. I went to try out a new ice cream shop, and lo and behold, one of the girls was serving the ice cream. I have multiple allergies, including milk and gluten, of which the ice cream shop claimed to be cautious. So I ordered gluten and dairy-free ice cream, and set my phone camera up to film the area where the ice cream was prepared because I saw that the girl had recognized me and was certain she'd try something, and she did. I caught her on camera putting a spoonful of milk in the bottom of the bowl and crumbling the gluten-consisting wafers over everything, then camouflaging it with the last scoop of ice cream. She put it down in front of me and said, "I hope you enjoy it." I sweetly smiled at her and asked if she could get the owner of the shop because I wanted to thank her for being so welcoming to guests with allergies. I showed the owner the video and told her that I'd like to press charges. Bully will never work anywhere where she'll come in contact with food again, and she'll have this on her criminal record for years.
When did you realize your friends were actually fake friends? When I slowly realized I was only around for chores and errands, rides to the airport, pick up furniture, help move. Anything social always resulted in either last-minute cancellations, showing up 45 minutes late and bolting after 10 minutes. I thought they were busy, but no. When I returned to work after being off for 3 months due to an injury and I practically begged them to go grab a beer and do pub trivia, but all 3 of them passed because they had plans. Well, it turns out their plans were to go grab a beer and do pub trivia without me. Found out through social media. Deleted it shortly afterwards. I've been a lot less sad about things since I've deleted social media and stopped looking at them as friends and just as work acquaintances. It took that for me to realize that the friendships were really one-sided and I'm better off not pursuing anything other than being cordial at work. When I was babysitting her kids, things were going great. We would hang out all the time, have movie nights and just talk and chill. But the second she no longer needed a babysitter was the second I got kicked to the curb. No explanation, not even a text back.
I've become less affectionate with her, in public and in private. She's been increasingly clingy, asking me to stay with her when I leave, texting me a lot, sometimes multiple times in the space of 10 minutes. I'm enjoying this. I want to see what happens when I pull the rug out from under her. I'm going to give it another month before I end it. I'm going to send her parents of the video doing something and explain that I can't stay with her. She doesn't make enough to pay for tuition, so she will probably have to drop out or suspend her semester. She works at the campus Muslim student ASOC, so I'll send them some evidence too, so she'll lose her job. I don't really know how effective this last thing will be, but I'll send evidence to her friends too, as she lets this guy talk bad about other people in her life, and even agrees with him. And then I'll ghost her. That's it. No family, no education, no job, no friends, no boyfriend. She destroyed our future, so I'm going to destroy hers. I think the grief will probably hit some time after that, but not that much. She said some devastating things about me to him, all of which were untrue or very exaggerated, but I can't get the thought out of my head that she has this false image of me, and that there was never any respect there in the first place. You can't love someone and do what she did. I don't love her anymore. I hate her. I loved what we had in the past.
My neighbor bangs on the floor. I have an upstairs neighbor who always bangs on the floor when she thinks I'm being too loud. She also leaves notes on my fence, shaming me to the street. However, despite her strict rules of conduct, she herself stomps around her apartment and plays loud music at 6:30 a.m. while she showers. It's quite entertaining, I must say. I live, laugh, and love here under her reign every day. The other day we had our first day of spring. It was a beautiful and warm day with a gentle breeze that entered the house. I noticed that my naughty neighbor had her balcony doors open too. So I immediately decided to do a little DIY project. I grabbed some spray paint, closed my doors with my dog inside, and started repainting the legs of my outdoor chairs. Every time my neighbor closed her doors, I took a break. And as soon as she reopened them, I went back outside to apply another coat of paint, letting the fumes drift into her house with the lovely spring breeze. I could hear her slamming the door a little harder each time, and it was like sweet music to my ears. I made sure the entire painting process took the whole day, so she couldn't fully enjoy the sunshine. It was such a satisfying success that I might consider taking up furniture revamping as a new hobby.
What's the corniest thing you've ever done that you now realize was just plain stupid? Me and this girl was always the last two off the school bus. When everyone else got off, we would hold hands, and that progressed into feeling each other up. Well, one day she told me her parents would be leaving for the afternoon after she got off the bus and invited me over. I was 15 at the time, so I rode my Honda 3-wheeler 8 miles in the cold so I could finally seal the deal with my school bus crush. Might not sound like a big deal, but 8 miles on a 3-wheeler in the freezing cold was a pretty dumb move. The ride there was full of excitement. The ride home was full of regret. Oh no, why the regret? It took me so long to get there. By the time things got heated, her parents was pulling up the driveway. Thank God she had a long driveway. I hopped back on my 3-wheeled love machine I had parked in the woods and started the long journey home. Our bus lust continued until she got a boyfriend, and I never got a second chance.
What's the cringiest thing you've seen a bride do at her wedding? Ask money to fund their expensive honeymoon. A close friend of mine wanted a grand honeymoon after their wedding. She got these ideas on social media, where people spend a week in the Bahamas. She is an aspiring Instagram influencer and would do anything to look expensive. She even shared how excited she is for their Bahamas trip, and even shared to her followers where they will stay at a 5-star hotel. The time she is getting close to her wedding, she sends us a registry link to the products she wants. Wedding registry is basically a wish list for wedding couples, and they send it out to their guests who wish to give them a gift. Anyway, her registry was absurdly expensive. She listed a lot like a $3,000 coffee machine. None of them drink coffee, and $3,000 Hermes blankets. I thought she was out of her mind until the wedding, where at the reception, she told everybody that they will pass a little bucket for us to put cash to fund their Bahamas trip, and that it is mandatory. She wants it fully paid off, and it was a total of $12,000 trip. I was shocked because looking at the guests, none of them were willing to fund the trip. I found out they only got $300.
Poor people who have dated rich people. What did you learn? My ex-wife had a grandfather that was a multi-millionaire. Christmas time at their house was like being in another world. All of the different family members would try to get a moment with the king and would suck up to him as much as possible. I spent my time down on the ground playing with my kids and was happy to get out of there. About a week or two after the second Christmas, I got a phone call from Grandpa. He wanted to know what he could do for my family. I told him I didn't want any of his money, but I would like my kids to know their great-grandfather. Later that year, he showed up at our place unexpected and spent most of the afternoon telling stories with me about his youth. He set up a trust fund for each one of my kids to have their college paid for. A little bit after that, he told me out of all of his in-laws, I was the only one that never asked him for anything but to be himself.
Introverts, How did you meet your girlfriend? She came over to me in a coffee shop while she was on vacation in my country, to ask how to tip. We had a 2-hour conversation, and then an amazing 5-hour lunch 2 days later. She complained about her hostel and I offered her my spare bedroom. She accepted. Nothing happened, although it seems crystal clear in retrospect that we were falling for each other. Duh, I didn't want to be douchey and make her feel uncomfortable under my roof, so putting the moves on her was not something I seriously considered. 2 nights later, I had to be gone for most of the night, on a work assignment, and I asked if she would please watch and walk my dog in my absence. I came home at 5 a.m., and was greeted by my suddenly very soft, very fluffy dog. She had somehow understood "will you please wash my dog," and apparently didn't find that a strange request at all. The next evening, after we'd been talking over a bottle of wine for hours, it seemed she'd had enough of my apparent indecisiveness, took the wine glass out of my hand, put it down, and leaned in for a kiss. That was 26 years ago. We've been married 23 years.
What did a teacher say that made you immediately walk out of the classroom? Gym class, swimming. We were told from day one that if we did not dress out and swim on swim day we would fail the class. No excuses even for periods. And we had to swim with the boys. I love swimming, so I had no desire to avoid it. But on swim day, on the way to the pool, the boys all started grabbing us all by the butts and breasts and the coach seemed to egg it on by pushing us into a tiny lobby by the pool. Us girls were all screaming and fighting but the coach laughed and called us prissies. I immediately ran back to the locker room to get dressed. After that, every swim day I refused to dress out. My mother supported my decision. I was threatened every day with failure. I did not care. But then my friend, who was a shy, quiet, good girl, said she could not swim because her periods were so heavy she was very sick. The coach forced her to run bleachers until they passed out. I saw it because I also had to run bleachers for refusing to dress out. After that, I started all-out war against the coach and convinced most of the girls to refuse dressing out. I refused to finish the physical fitness test. Every test.
I dumped my girlfriend after she told me about her sexual past in college. To make a long story short, we were playing a drinking game with some friends and she admitted to having at least 2 threesomes during college and sleeping with around 13 guys. To be honest, I never asked her about her past before, cause I just thought it was whatever. But damn, something about hearing that made me squeamish. I don't think I'll ever recover, honestly. I know some people are gonna call me a misogynistic or a shamer, but I honestly couldn't care less. I knew I could never recover or move past what I heard. I broke up with her next day and said I hope you find someone right for you one day. She obviously started crying and she's still texting me, but I'm already mentally checked out. I'm 24, so I know I got a full life ahead of me, full life ahead of me, full life.
What's the worst thing you did as a horny teen? I was in theater, and during plays we would have to run to a tiny area and change clothes. They had a small separator in the middle for boys and girls, but it wasn't uncommon for someone in a hurry to step out mid-change in a rush to not miss their entrance. During one show, I was in freshman year, I was going in to change and saw hot senior girl walking out with her skirt a little too high, and I caught a glance of her vag for a brief second. I then proceeded to rush to the bathroom and rub one out, and after I finished, I changed and missed my entrance by 3 to 5 minutes. So I walked on stage and improv'd my way back into the scene, told everyone I had gotten sick and threw up, and then rushed back on stage. Everyone applauded me and praised my dedication to the theater. 10 out of 10. Would jerk again.
When did you realize your friends were actually fake friends? When I slowly realized I was only around for chores and errands, rides to the airport, pick up furniture, help move. Anything social always resulted in either last-minute cancellations, showing up 45 minutes late and bolting after 10 minutes. I thought they were busy, but no. When I returned to work after being off for 3 months due to an injury and I practically begged them to go grab a beer and do pub trivia, but all 3 of them passed because they had plans. Well, it turns out their plans were to go grab a beer and do pub trivia without me. Found out through social media, deleted it shortly afterwards. I've been a lot less sad about things since I've deleted social media and stopped looking at them as friends and just as work acquaintances. It took that for me to realize that the friendships were really one-sided and I'm better off not pursuing anything other than being cordial at work. When I was babysitting her kids, things were going great. We would hang out all the time, have movie nights and just talk and chill. But the second she no longer needed a babysitter was the second I got kicked to the curb. No explanation, not even a text back.
Would I be the whole if I break up with my GF over her weight? I, 28 meters, am 6'5", 200 pounds and go to the gym 3 times a week and go for jogs daily. I met my GF, 24, at the gym about 2 years ago. She's smaller and was thin at the time, she was cute and funny, and we hit it off really well. Almost a year ago we decided to move in together, and I noticed then she had gained a couple pounds, but didn't think anything of it. Ever since then she has consistently put on more and more weight. Easily 60 plus pounds now. Of course she no longer works out either. I find her eating habits and appearance gross now. The thin girl I was so attracted to has been replaced by an insatiable eater. She eats bags of candy and wants fast food for every meal. The apartment we are renting lease is ending in April. She has been hinting at wanting to get married, but I'm thinking of cutting her and the apartment free at lease end. So my question is, would I be the hole if I dump my girlfriend because she has gained so much weight I'm no longer attracted to her? We're attracted to her. We're attracted to her. We're attracted.
Poor people who have dated rich people, what did you learn? My ex-wife had a grandfather that was a multi-millionaire. Christmas time at their house was like being in another world. All of the different family members would try to get a moment with the king and would suck up to him as much as possible. I spent my time down on the ground playing with my kids and was happy to get out of there. About a week or two after the second Christmas, I got a phone call from Grandpa. He wanted to know what he could do for my family. I told him I didn't want any of his money, but I would like my kids to know their great-grandfather. Later that year, he showed up at our place unexpected and spent most of the afternoon telling stories with me about his youth. He set up a trust fund for each one of my kids to have their college paid for. A little bit after that, he told me out of all of his in-laws, I was the only one that never asked him for anything but to be himself.
My ex cheated on me because she thought I was going to break up with her. So for a little backstory, I 33M had been dating Sarah 32F for 6 years and loved every second of it. We were literally soulmates, and so obviously I was going to ask her to marry me. I decided that I would take her to a really expensive restaurant, and when we got back I would have a beautiful display with loads of flowers and a sign asking her to marry me. So when the day came I was all dressed up in a 400-pound suit, and when I told Sarah we needed to go she came downstairs in a t-shirt, jumper and jeans. This upset me quite a bit. Once we were in the car and halfway to the restaurant Sarah told me she felt ill, asked if I would pull over at the pharmacy and get her some paracetamol. Thinking nothing of it I obliged. However, when I came out of the store my car was missing and there was an envelope addressed to me where the car was parked. Inside the envelope were pictures of her naked with another man and a note that said she knew I was going to break up with her, so she decided to cheat on me and leave me before I could do it to her. Obviously, when she arrived home and saw the display I had set up in our room she realized she had made a massive mistake. About 10 minutes after being abandoned I got a call from her. She started the call by claiming it was a big joke, but when I mentioned the pictures she became really apologetic and then followed up by telling me she can't wait to get married. I hung up and called my friend and asked if I could stay the night, which is where I'm writing this from. I've got no clue what I should do. Should I take her back? Should I take her back?
What's your secret that could literally ruin your life if it came out? I once helped out my female friend's family by taking care of their cat for a week. Every day for a week, I would go over there and snoop around their house. I found my friend's diary, and proceeded to read the entire thing. I used this information to get her to like me, and she is currently my wife. I cut off all contact with everyone I know and moved to Kenya. I tell people a fake name and a fake background and have made it appear to my family that I died on boat trip in the Pacific. No, I am not joking. I am dead in the United States. I accidentally killed 7 people. I put a rag into a new water heater exhaust to keep debris out and installed it in a rental. I get a call a week later, there's been an accident. I show up and there's a ton of EMS and police. They ask me where the gas shutoff is, and I go down to shut the gas off and see the end of the rag I forgot sticking out of the top of the heater. Rip the rag out, shut the gas off and head upstairs only to be told all the tenants were dead. I drink all day now and sleep. It's killing me from the inside every single day, but if I say anything my family is ruined. We have a bunch of rental properties and we'd be shut down.
My husband is attracted to my daughter. TLDR, I made my daughter leave after finding out my husband is attracted to her. I, 55, have been married to my husband and my daughter's stepdad, 63, for 4 years. My 23-year-old daughter and I have a complicated relationship. She has been diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder. She has a lot of trauma from watching me and my husband's horrible marriage go down and was bullied in school. When she told me she was being bullied by peers, my view that all children are innocent really tied my hands because I told her that if I said anything to them, I would be an adult harassing a child. She has blamed me for that ever since. And keeps referring to this one time where the kids at school called her trash due to the fact that she wasn't taking care of her hygiene due to depression. Part, not all, of my response was telling her to take a shower and I bought her new clothes. The bullying finally ended with an expulsion and a suspension for the ringleaders. She still throws the fact that a school clinic volunteer told her that if she was their kid she'd have permission to punch back if administrators didn't do anything. I thought that having her live with me while she finishes school and gets a job would help heal some childhood wounds of my second husband and I modeled a healthy relationship. However, my daughter now doesn't get along with my husband.
What's the weirdest thing you've done while horny? When I was maybe 13 to 14 I was extremely sexually curious and started putting random objects into my V. One time I shoved a lipstick tube up there but when I pulled it out the lid had stayed stuck inside me. I was crying trying to fish it out for a good 30 minutes because I would have rather died from an infection than go to my very conservative Korean parents and admit to my personal sin time. In college I lived off campus. I went to a really small town and lived with 2 guys. During the summer we would just work and play video games but someone was always home and the rest of campus was dead as F. One time I said I was taking my dog to the forest preserve but really was going for a mega self-pleasure session in my car. It was hard to do it in the shower because it was right next to my other roommate's bedroom. When I came home my roommate was like, "Did you go alone? You left the dog here." Whoops lol. I got turned on carving pumpkins with the X1 fall and decided the pumpkin guts were slimy and probably would make an excellent feeling on a Richard. So I J off my ex with hands full of pumpkin guts. He loved it. He's probably never looked at pumpkin carving the same since.
As a student, what is the saddest thing you have found out about your teacher? The entire class stood outside the door waiting for him to unlock it like he did every class. We stood there waiting and waiting. Even the late kids were now there at this point. The teacher had never been this late. After around 15 minutes, the principal lets us in the classroom. We all sat down in our chairs wondering what was going on. Then it came. The principal stood up and said something that shocked us all. Your teacher, Mr. M, has passed away. The room went silent. We were all shocked. It was as if lightning has just struck every person in that room at once. The man couldn't have been more than 43 years old, and he didn't look sick when we had seen him 2 days prior. God, the silence. The principal then explained that Mr. M had been sick for a while with pancreatitis. He never expected to live to an old age and had prepped the staff in case this event ever occurred. Some kids started crying, others asked questions, and some just sat there in silence. We were eventually all sent home early. Mr. M was my 11th grade film teacher. This man was one of the main reasons I am pursuing a career in film editing today. He was the one who started the spark,
My boyfriend said the quiet part out loud. Last night my boyfriend, 20, and me, 21 female, we're going to have some fun. For context, this is the only non-abusive relationship I've ever had, especially in regards to lovemaking. To put it lightly, my other relationships didn't give a crap about me or my pleasure. Sometimes I get worried my current boyfriend doesn't care about my pleasure, but I've been convincing myself that I'm just paranoid and putting up a wall because of my last relationships. So we're getting in the mood, and I notice once again he is not doing much for me and I'm doing everything for him and his pleasure. For instance, this happens often. I put his hand down there and he moves it away. I tell him I really want to finish tonight and he immediately does an annoyed face with a big sigh. I'm confused. He says, but that's so much work making you finish. I don't know if it's your ADHD or something but. And I immediately stop what I'm doing and my mind goes blank. I do have ADHD, but let me tell you, this man doesn't do anything to pleasure me. He has said he finds vaginas gross, so let me tell you this has nothing to do with my ADHD. Last night he confirmed my worst fears, that for 5 effing years I've been dating him and he doesn't dating him and he.
What did a teacher say that made you immediately walk out of the classroom? Gym class, swimming. We were told from day one that if we did not dress out and swim on swim day we would fail the class. No excuses even for periods. And we had to swim with the boys. I love swimming, so I had no desire to avoid it. But on swim day, on the way to the pool, the boys all started grabbing us all by the butts and breasts and the coach seemed to egg it on by pushing us into a tiny lobby by the pool. Us girls were all screaming and fighting but the coach laughed and called us prissies. I immediately ran back to the locker room to get dressed. After that, every swim day I refused to dress out. My mother supported my decision. I was threatened every day with failure. I did not care. But then my friend, who was a shy, quiet, good girl said she could not swim because her periods were so heavy she was very sick. The coach forced her to run bleachers until the passed out. I saw it because I also had to run bleachers for refusing to dress out. After that, I started all-out war against the coach and convinced most of the girls to refuse dressing out. I refused to finish the physical fitness test. Every test. What is the scariest thing you've witnessed in the middle of the night? Was riding along with my dad who was a trucker. It was Christmas break and sometime while driving through the night he shouts, "Oh no," over and over again. I was laying in the truck cabin bed playing my PlayStation on a little TV, so I was a bit concerned. We hadn't hit anything. He tells me to put my shoes on and we gotta help, and tells me to dial 911. So Dad pulls over, and I see it behind our tractor trailer. A speeding car was going too fast and had rolled multiple times down a steep embankment. So we went to see if we could do anything while we waited for ER. Family of 4, 2 kids in the back, no seatbelts, no kids seats. Everyone inside was a crumpled bloody mess. Once ambulances came, we left. They arrived pretty quick and though I can't say for certain, I was pretty sure the whole family had passed. Kinda messed me up a bit. Had never seen a body in that state, or a dead body outside of a funeral. Even to this day, 20 plus years later, I still think about what I had seen, even after going into the medical field and witnessing worse.
What will never not be funny? Accidentally walking in on my dad, my uncle, and my grandma smoking of my grandma's medical marijuana as a teen. My grandma saying, "Are you in or are you out?" Mostly asking if I was going to keep this secret from my aunt. Not knowing any of them smoked and saying yes, because how often does that opportunity occur all at once? I take a couple hits, and we go to dinner, hot dogs and macaroni. We all keep our cool, probably too silently eating our food, and I look over as I'm trying to suction off that inevitable first bite of bread bun from the roof of my mouth, and I lock eyes with my tiny little grandma doing the same thing, and the seal of silence broke, and we laughed so hard despite trying to hold back. My uncle and dad covered their plates as we burst out laughing, mouths full. My aunt in utter confusion and sudden realization all at once, just shaking her head while we tried to control ourselves to no end. Best memory ever. Still makes me laugh. It's the small things in life. There's nothing bigger. If there's nothing What's the best mistake you've ever made? I made a mistake and asked the wrong woman out on a date. I have trouble remembering names and faces. There was a girl named Vicky that I talked to during lunch breaks at school. There was another girl named Marie that I met once at a cookout. I had an event coming up with dinner and dancing, and I wanted to ask Vicky to be my date since I knew her better. One day, while rushing between classes, a girl named Vicky stopped me and said hello. I surprised her by asking her to come with me to the event. She agreed, and I took out my notepad to write down her number. I wrote down the name Vicky, but she told me that wasn't her name. I apologized for my mistake and asked her what her name was. It was Marie. I realized that I had asked out the wrong girl, but I didn't want to back out since she had already said yes. We went on the date, and that night, we both fell in love. 3 weeks later, we got engaged. It has been 38 years since then, and we have a son together. We are still happily together, and yes, she knows the whole story. Meeting counts as lunch break? Alrighty then. So we have this big company-wide meeting every year where the CEO comes in and discusses profit margins, raises, plans for the future, etc. It lasts about an hour, sometimes more. Meanwhile, our work gets backed up while we are stuck sitting in this meeting, and we always end up working overtime. Well, this year, the boss in our department says that the meeting counts as our lunch break. I give my coworker the look. We glance around. It seems everyone is in silent agreement. We all show up to the meeting with our lunchboxes and proceed to casually eat lunch at the corporate meeting. All 60 of us from our department. The CEO stops his spiel after a few minutes. Our supervisor claims ignorance. I speak up and say the boss said this counts as our lunch, and I'm not skipping my lunch. The boss tries to deny having said that. The CEO asks who can verify this, and everyone raises their hand. Guess who got an official reprimand from the CEO himself? One more of those, and the boss is out the nose, and the boss.
Kids who just graduated high school, did anything crazy happen at your graduation? Yeah. I hit my pen when they called my name and my principal slapped me. I'm a senior in high school, and I've always been a bit of a troublemaker. Throughout my high school years, I've been caught smoking behind the school, skipping classes, and pulling pranks on teachers. My parents and others have had their fair share of complaints about my behavior. The day of my high school graduation finally arrives. The ceremony is held at the school's football stadium, with proud parents and family members in attendance. The air is filled with anticipation and excitement as we prepare to receive our diplomas and close the chapter on our high school lives. As I'm waiting for my name to be called to walk across the stage, I get this wild idea. I decide that, as a final act of rebellion, I'm going to hit my dab pen in front of everyone when they call my name. My friends, knowing my plan, have their phones out, ready to record the whole thing. They're egging me on, and I can't help but feel like the man. They call my name, and everyone cheers and claps as I walk toward the front of the stage. I whip out my dab pen, take a massive hit, and start screaming, "Yodi gang, you feel me? Fated than a hoe. Fated than a hoe. Paying ho."